So, why is my camera is like this? Is there any problem there? Okay, so our next mission, our next aim is to create motivational, inspirational shorts following, featuring Alex Armanzi with emotional and great music and milk background. As previously discussed, the aim is to follow exactly like the videos said, because if we can follow videos, then government others can also watch the same to do these things. So, Submagic, the main tool that I have in my mind is submagic.co. They're there, and Control T, YouTube, Alex Armanzi, Alex Armanzi, Armanzi or Armanzi? I don't care, whatever. Armanzi motivational motivation.
You have this big vision for your life that you want, and on this side, your
Podcast. I want a podcast. More motivational podcast.
What did you call this? The podcasting booty call? We come together for a very intense 3 hours, don't see each other for 6 months until I text you again and say, what you doing?
It's exactly that.
All right, so we're going to go through some of the best lessons I've learned from you over the last couple of months. First one, control freak is a word people with low standards use to describe people with high standards. You're not a control freak. You just want it done right the first time. You're not anxious. You care. Do not expect mediocre people to support world-class goals.
I think most people feel really lonely when you want something that doesn't currently exist. And so some people call that dreams, some people call that goals, whatever it is. You're trying to pull something from your mind into reality, and you want it done a certain way. And if it's not done that way, it's not what you imagined. And so, like all my very, very controversial beliefs, but I'll throw a taster out now. Murder is just picking when someone dies. So it's like if you hate someone, it's like you can just look at them and be like, oh, you're gonna die eventually. And so the idea is like, in your mind, you could murder every enemy you have. You just don't get to pick the time. But I just find that such a murder only changes when, not that someone's going to die. And so if you think about retribution on someone's like, this person said this thing to me, I want to kill him. It's like, oh no, you don't even have to. They'll die. They're gonna die already. You don't even have to don't worry about it. They're gonna die. And so it sounds so silly, but just connecting those two dots, I was like, wow, that's incredibly peace-giving. So why have a vendetta when life will take care of them for me? And so I just as a totally different frame, I was talking to somebody who has cancer in my life, and they were really concerned. They were like, this has a 95% mortality rate over the next 5 years. And me being me, I was like, well, 70-year-olds probably have a 60% mortality rate over the next 5 years anyways. I was like, and life has a 100% mortality rate. So, worse, yes, but how much worse? And so they didn't think it was funny, but but just as a it was intended to be comforting. It didn't succeed. But all that to say, these things that people cast on us, it just whispers in the wind, right? If we think that our whole meaning is so infinitesimal, the idea that someone else can influence our trajectory when they themselves will disappear and become irrelevant seems so silly to me.
And they don't have our best interests at heart.
No.
They have the opposite of our best interests.
Yeah, they're literally trying to destroy you.
What about the only insults that hurt are the ones we believe? What about that?
Oh, yeah. Well, because I, like other people, get offended with things. And then I've also had times where someone says something with the intention to insult and it doesn't. And I was like, how can I get that to happen every time? And so it's the classic example of, Chris, you have green hair. And then you would say, okay, whatever, sure. But you don't believe it, so it doesn't really matter. And so I think there's kind of a dual-sided lesson, at least for me in this, is that when we are insulted, I try and pay attention to it because I think, okay, either there's something here that they're right about and that I don't like about myself, in which case the response is to agree. And that's what's so frightening. And so it's like if recently had someone made something blasting me about, I don't go home for the holidays. I made this video about it. And in the first 5 seconds of the video, of course, I'm like, if you love your family, fucking go home. This is for everybody else, right? But of course, no one actually watches that who makes that piece of content. And so they just went on this tirade about me. And I just said, God, I suck, period, as my comment. And because there's the stoic response to hate is to agree and one up. So level 1 is agree. So someone says, Alex, you're a fucking idiot. And you're like, believe me, if you knew half of it, you'd think more than that. Because it's the only way you can respond. And so my mental judo for these things, and I try. Now, the good news for you and I is that we get lots of practice, right? Every day we have people hating on us, and so I get.
If you haven't gotten what you want, then you're not worthy of it, period. And that's okay. Now you can admit that you suck and improve. Better to know you're bad for a season than pretend you're good for a lifetime. You're not making as much money as you want because you're not as good as you think you are. You're not struggling from imposter syndrome. You're a student and pretending to be a teacher. No students say they feel like frauds for trying to learn. You're a fraud when you get up to teach the class, and you've never done it.
I think it's just giving yourself permission to suck. It's giving yourself permission to be unhappy. It's giving yourself permission to not achieve while you do for a long period of time. It's giving yourself permission to lose friends. It's giving yourself permission to do things that's different than people in your social circle or your age.
Doing the same thing consistently. So usually once people do it in the beginning, they're sporadic, they're not consistent with it. Just to activate